Welcome once again to our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. We are enjoying a quick study of the great I am statements that Jesus made in that are recorded in the Gospel of John. There's 7 of them, and we've looked at so far at 2. Jesus says, I am the bread of life, and I am the light of the world. By being the bread of life, he is satisfying the spiritual hunger found in the souls of each of us. By being the light of the world, he guides us into all truth and ultimately into light. In chapter 10 of John, there are 2 I am statements that are, we would at least say they're overlapping. They deal with sheep and shepherds, but they're a little different. And today we look at the first one found in chapter 10, verse 7. And that is, he says, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. Now I'll come back to that, but look at verse 8. All who come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters through me, he'll be saved. He'll go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes to steal and to kill and destroy. I came that they might have life, that they might have it abundantly. So let's back up to the original statement, verse 7. This doesn't really compute well with most of us modern-day Western-type people. We don't know much about sheep, and if we do know something about them, we probably don't live with them as shepherds did in ancient times. When the shepherds were out in the wilderness and out in the countryside, taking their sheep to pastures, they had to move them about to different places so that they could find pasture. And the shepherd, maybe 1 or 2 or whatever, depending on the size of the flock, would take their sheep out and move them around, because if they stayed in one area for too long, they destroyed all the vegetation, all the grass, and so they had to keep moving them to new pastures, to watering holes and so forth. So that meant often the shepherd and his sheep were out in the middle of nowhere for extended periods of time as they moved about. So at night, what do you do with a flock of sheep when you're out there in the open like that? Because if you let them just roam on their own, they're going to be easy prey for any predator that wants to come along and kill them, or to be stolen by thieves, or to wander off and not be found. You simply couldn't let them be out there like that all alone. So the shepherds would have, throughout the various pastures, they would have an enclosure. So probably built mostly out of rock and so forth. It would be kind of like a rock pen in which they would bring their sheep into that pen at night to keep them protected. Now, a number of things happened then. As each sheep came through, the shepherd could check on them and see if there was any problem, if they had any parasites or any wounds, anything that need doctoring or taken care of. And so they could check their sheep that way. They could count their sheep and make sure each of the flock is there, every sheep that belonged to that flock, and he wasn't missing any of them. And he could demonstrate his care for them in that way. But after all the sheep were safely in the pen, there is now this opening in front of the pen that did not normally have a gate. So what's going to keep those sheep from wandering out of the pen at night and getting into trouble? Well, the shepherd would do that, and he did that by physically becoming the door, as Jesus said here, to the sheep pen. He would lay over that door. He would sleep over the entryway to that pen so that the sheep could not get out without going over him. And, of course, that would wake him up and he would stop them. So they literally became the door, these shepherds did, for the sheep. Now, let's go back to our passage. So he says, I am the door of the sheep. So Jesus is playing that role of protecting, loving, caring for his own sheep at the most vulnerable times. And then he goes on to say, all who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. So he's talking now about probably the Pharisees and the false teachers that was leading the people astray and didn't care for them. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. That's what false people do. But I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. And so Jesus, in verse 9, I am the door. If anyone enters through me, he'll be saved. He'll go in and out and find pasture. So what did Jesus do? He became the door, the protecting door, so that as these sheep came through him, They're finding physical salvation, physical protection. So now, once again, he's making a spiritual application. As we come into the sheepfold, the spiritual sheepfold, you come through him who is the shepherd. I am the door of this sheepfold, and I have come not like the false teachers, not like the predators who come to take advantage of the sheep. I have come to give them life. And so this picture of Christ as the door of the sheepfold is a picture of what Christ has done in order to protect us, to demonstrate his love, and once again, to give us life. We'll look at another one tomorrow, our next week, concerning the shepherd in this chapter.